Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Rice Krispie Wings. That's right, it does sound like we used the crispy cereal for this, which we didn't. So when and if this goes viral, potentially hundreds of thousands of people may be disappointed. But you know what? I'm okay with that. They'll be fine. Anyway, these were the experimental wings I teased at the end of the mumbo sauce video. And while we have posted many chicken wing recipes on the channel, I believe this is the first time we're ever going to fry them, which is the original and probably best method for buffalo wings. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with some split chicken wings, which as you can see were separated, as we say in the business, into the flats and the drums. And since this was an experiment, I'm only doing a small batch here, so this was just like 1.25 pounds. And what we'll do first is season these up, or as the kids these days like to say, dry brine them. And I'm going to be doing that very simply with what looks like a dangerous amount of kosher salt, as well as some freshly ground black pepper, and of course some cayenne. And then once that's been applied, we'll give it a thorough mixing, which if I wasn't filming, I would definitely do with my bare hand, since that does work so much better, as long as you wash it afterwards. And by the way, feel free to personalize these by adding any other spices you want. Right, you are, after all, the Tom Petty of getting these ready, so you don't have to season them like me. But anyway, we'll go ahead and mix those up with our salt and any other spices we're using. At which point we're going to wrap these and pop them in the fridge for at least 2 hours, which is not only hopefully going to make these very flavorful, but also keep them nice and juicy once they're fried. So I'm going to place on some plastic and pop those in the fridge. And while we're waiting, we can go ahead and find some of this stone ground rice flour. And what's nice about this stuff is it's not too fine, which as you'll see really helps create a sauce grabbing texture. Plus this stuff is gluten-free, if that's something you're into, or should I say not into. And what we'll do is pour some of that into some kind of dish or plate. And I debated whether to add some seasoning to this, but I decided not to because I was pretty aggressive with the wings. But you certainly could if you want. And then what we'll do once our wings have been in the fridge for a couple hours is pull them out and begin dredging these in our rice flour, which, believe it or not, is going to be the only thing we're going to coat these in. So this really is an extremely simple technique. And because of that salt we added earlier, these should have a nice sheen to the surface. And that little bit of moisture is really going to grab onto this flour. So we'll go ahead and give those a light but thorough coating, shaking off the excess. And then once we've gone through and dredged all our wings, we have to do a very underrated and often not done step. And that would be to let these sit out for about 15 minutes or so before we fry them. Okay, if you dredge these and go straight into the hot oil, you just don't get as good of a coating. So what we'll do once these are coated with our flour and on a plate is kind of spread them out to allow for a little bit of air circulation. And then we'll just let these sit out for about 15 minutes, allowing that starch to really fuse to the surface. And I know you have the wicked munchies, and you've started eating your mumbo sauce with a spoon, but it really is worth the wait. So I did let mine sit for 15 minutes, at which point we can go ahead and fry these in 375-degree oil for about 10 to 12 minutes depending on the size. And generally what I like to do here is wait about a minute, and then take my strainer and give this a little bit of an agitation, just in case anything's sticking together, which it probably won't be, but we might as well check. And then we'll simply let these continue frying for, like I said, a total time of about 10 to 12 minutes, or until the outside's crispy and the inside is totally cooked through. So I thought these were looking pretty good, and I went ahead and pulled them out. And as culinary custom dictates, I transferred those onto a rack, and I brought that into some better light so I could check these out. And to be honest, at first I wasn't quite sure how these came out. Right, the rice flour didn't get as dark as some other coatings, and it kind of sort of looked like sandpaper. So I proceeded to the old time test to check their crispiness, because as you know, fork don't lie. So they definitely sounded legit, but just to be safe I ate one, to confirm. And notwithstanding their somewhat odd appearance, they were very flavorful, and while the coating was light, it was still surprisingly crispy. And as I soon found out, because of the unique texture from that rice flour, this coating really was outstanding when it comes to sauce adhesion. Okay, thanks to that rough surface area, this stuff really does grab onto the sauce. So I officially deemed my experiment a success, and then decided to test it using the traditional buffalo-style chicken wing method, where we take some hot right out of the fryer wings, and then spoon over the sauce and give them a toss to coat. And the great thing about the traditional buffalo-style method is total coverage. But anytime you do what they call a wet style wing, you're definitely going to lose some of that crispiness. So as with all wing recipes, you're going to have to decide whether to dip or coat. Although visually, I think the traditional way always looks kind of cool. So I coated those with my mumbo and finished them with a few green onions. And then continued eating. Evaluating. And then, just for old time's sake, in case you never caught our video for how to eat a flat chicken wing, we never gnaw around those two bones. We loosen the small one and twist and pull that out, which allows us to pull off or bite off the rest of the meat with no bone involved. And yes, I absolutely do eat that little bit of piece of cartilage left in there. It's good for my hair and nails, or at least my nails. But anyway, that's it, what we're calling Rice Krispie wings. Or at least that's what my wife Michelle thought we should call them. I was actually going to call them rice flour wings, until she came up with a significantly better name. But anyway, whether you're looking for a gluten-free coating, or what's just a very light, crispy, and delicious coating, I really do hope you give these a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.